blighted agent, so Berserk, when you attack and at the end of the end step, destroy that creature if attacked this turn. And Song of Dire says the enchanted permanent is now a colorless forest land. So my question here is, does Berserk still destroy blighted agent enchanted with Song of Dire? So if you think you still destroy it, goes with a thumbs up, and nose goes with a thumbs down. Okay. All right, you guys are good. So, nope, it does not. The blighted agent is this game still see blighted agent as the same object that the Berserk was casted on. Therefore, the game will still be destroying the forested blighted agent at the end step. The only way to get around this is if the object change is shown prior to the end step, then the game will treat this as a new object and it will not be destroyed. If you guys have any question, just type it up in chat anytime. Okay, we went through those very quickly. So now we moved on to the delay triggers and handling them at the comp level. So just to refresh some of the things that we look for when check for this thing, right? Did the player actually missed it? How long has it been passed? And there are some corner cases concerning delay triggers as well. Okay, so let's say I own a Great Betrayal and I kill one of my opponent's creatures. So Great Betrayal reads, when a creature you don't control dies, return it to the battlefield under your control at the beginning of the next end step, right? So naturally, at the end step, Neil pointed at the Great Betrayal and say trigger. His opponent, calls a judge over and said that I never mentioned about the Great Betrayal triggers when the creatures was killed earlier. So the question here is, did Neil actually miss a trigger? If yes, goes with a thumbs up. No, goes with a thumbs down. Okay, very good. Most of you respond with a thumbs down. Oh, so a few more coming. So the key takeaway here is that trigger abilities, so this is according to the IPG, triggers ability that do nothing except create delay triggers, they automatically resolve without the need for acknowledgement. Going back to what I said earlier about the acknowledging when you missed it, the important things here is that Neil made a clear demonstration that he is aware at appropriate point, which is at the end step when the trigger would make a change to the game state, right? So therefore, we will say that he did miss the trigger. And another key takeaway here is that the creation of this kind of triggers is not relevant, but its resolution is. Okay. So let's try the Berserk example in the comp setting. So let's say I cast it on a blighted agent, Berserk on a blighted agent, attack my opponent, and then passes a turn. Opponent untap, draw, do nothing, then pass. I again untap, I about to declare an attack, I realizes that my blighted agent is still on the battlefield. So I call the judge over. So what would be happening next? So goes for thumbs up if you think blighted agent is destroyed next time opponent receives priority, or thumbs down if blighted agent is not destroyed since it's been more than a turn. Okay, so majority thumbs up and one thumbs down. So in this case, we look at the time, right? It's been more than a turn since the blooded agent was the trigger was missed. So if the ability was missed prior to the current phase in the previous turn, they just have to keep playing. The game has moved on past the state that we do not go back on. Penalty should still be given, however. So in this case, Neil will get a warning for it. And if you think that the players is intentionally missing them just to gain an unfair advantage, then we could look into cheating as well. So, and obviously, if it's not obvious, if it's been less than a turn, then the opponent has the option to place the ability on the stack and have it resolved. Next time, he would have priority. Okay. Any question on this one? I feel that this one will probably get a lot of people. Okay. Nope. Nothing in chat. Okay, so the next one deals with token and what they would call a delay zone trigger. So I attack my opponent with Geist and an angel token for. Okay, Ben is typing something. Okay, so I attack with a Geist, an opponent, and an angel token for 6. Then pass. Opponent casts a Playcrafter. Opponent sacrifice Playcrafter. I sacrifice a Geist. They continue playing for several turns. Then opponent realized that the token play was not sacrificed at the end step. So what happened? Tokens get removed. Next time opponent receive priority, or the token stay since it's been more than a turn. Okay, votes are coming in. And yep, you guys are right. This section is actually quite huge on IPG, but it goes under what they call a delay zone change trigger. So these triggers are used to clean up tokens, Yorian's ability like Yorian's, Etherling, Obsidents. So the way that they resolve is that the opponent chooses whether to resolve the ability next time a player would get priority, or when a player would get priority at the start of next phase. So that would mean like the opponent would have control when stuff blinking in and blinking out. So for example, if you miss a Yorian's end of turn triggers, then he can have them coming back at upkeep, which they will have summon sickness and they will not attack. So in cases like this, opponent have some control of creatures blinking in and blinking out and have an advantage this way because they did not forget it, so therefore they should not be penalized for it, right? So why is this treated this way different from the one I talked about the Berserk earlier, right? Because these kind of triggers is necessary for the creature's controller to continue using them. So imagine if you actually blink something with Yorian and then somehow you forget about all the stuff that needs to come back. That will create a pretty feel bad moment. You would not be able to get them back whatsoever if if your trigger is missed, right? So yeah, and the another thing to take note of this is it does not expire. So if you somehow forget for several turns that your permanent with Yorian does not come back, the next time that you realize this, then the opponent can put this ability on the stack just to clean things up. Okay. And now we moved on to the most brutal delay triggers. If you play something like Amulet Titan or Scale Shift, you probably know this. I think Suking is typing something. Yes, it is. Trick to do surprise blocker. Yep. Okay, so Pact. If you has cast Pact in Modern, you know how forgetful and how frightening it is. So let's say I cast a Summoner Pact, might do my thing, pass my turn. Felix, how many times have you died to Pact? Yep, too many to count. Okay, so opponent take a turn and pass. I untap, draw, and then remember that he forgets a Pact trigger, so he calls over a judge. So what happened? Thumbs up if opponent plays Pact on the stack, and thumbs down for continue playing. It's been more than a turn since Pact was cast. Yep. So the opponents get to put Pact trigger on the stack, right? This is how they deal. They usually deal with this kind of triggers. So what happened next? Do I get to pay, or is default is to that I don't get to pay and I loses the game? Okay, let's wait for a few moments for people to get their votes in. All right, so you guys are up to date on your policy, right? So before the change, before the recent INA change, policy change, mispack triggers always get placed on the stack, same as now, but it will go to the default option of not paying. The players that missed it do not get a choice, and therefore will just loses the game. And warning is not even necessary to issue at this point. The player just lost the game. All right. Recent change is that it allows the owner of the pact, so the late trigger's owner, to make a choice to pay or not. So another one that if you do a lot of legacy and stuff, is Tabernacle is the same kind of triggers ability. So some interesting thing that you can do with this is if your opponent forget a pack triggers to move on to the main phase and they cast something, then you can bring it up and say, hey, you missed your pack triggers. Would you like to pay? And usually, if they play something during their turn, then they would not have the mana to do it. So you can, as an opponent, I guess that you can strategically bring this up to your advantage. Because remember, it will get placed immediately after that was realized that it's missed. Yep, easy win. Okay, so that is it for delay triggers. My reading recommendation would be up on here. So comprehensive rule section 6.603.7 A to F, 0.112 for the reflexive triggers. Check a little bit on the recent policy change for replicate legions, and as usual, all of these trigger cases you can read them on IPG 2-A. Okay, I went through those pretty fast, and if there's any question or if anyone would like me to go back onto some slides, you can tell me in voice or type it in chat. Thank you, Ben. Okay, so if there's no question, then I guess that's it. Thank you everyone for having me. Please let me know via feedback form what kind I improved on. This is my first time presenting. Um, yeah, about the token. Yep, sure. Okay, cool. Okay, I'll make sure to send the admin my copy of the presentation, and they will probably put it up for you guys to have a reread. Anyway, any more questions? So Mark says for delay triggers, how far can you rewind a scenario? Pack, for example. So for pack, there is not really anything to rewind. I guess if do you mean like if they cast something and then they realize that they missed the track pack trigger? Is that what you mean, Mark? I can't hear you. Maybe let's see. I think you on mute, Mark. That's why I can't hear you. But yeah, let's say after they tapping out, you will not rewind anything in this case. They missed it, and it would just if they if it's in, let's say they cast it, upkeep, they missed it, move on to main page, they play something, and then both players say, "Hey, you missed the pack triggers." Then it will just go on stack right there and right then. You would not be rewinding anything that you did earlier in the turn because things already happened. It will be very disruptive if you rewind in this case. Remember, we will want to do rewind as little as possible when you're dealing with these kinds of things in competitive settings, because in the first place it's their fault for not remembering anyway, so they are correctly getting penalized for it. Hopefully that makes sense. Yeah, cool. All right, guys. I think if there's anything, you can feel free to hit me on chat, hit me on Discord, anything. I will take a break, sip my coffee, and I will enjoy the next presentation. Okay, thanks everyone. How to turn this off here.